Am I the idiot for kicking my husband out of the delivery room after he started crying? My husband Kevin, M31, and I, F27, welcomed our first baby a week ago. Kevin is the type of person that gets stressed out easily and react to events negatively. We've had conversations about his ability to handle being the delivery room. I said if he couldn't be there it was fine seeing how he reacts under pressure and can have mom there instead. He said he could 100% handle anything and promised to be supportive and positive. I went into labor alone. He met me at the hospital and when he entered the D room he looked so stressed out and overwhelmed already. He started moving around periodically, completely ignoring me. He got more visibly stressed when my pain got intense. He took my hand when I started having contractions and kept clutching it, almost stopping blood circulation. My entire arm went numb. I felt strained, and although I was in intense pain I saw his face. It was so red and there was a visible vein in his forehead that looked like it was about to blow up. It was not helpful at all. In fact, it was frustrating and affected my emotions negatively. But still, I was willing to suck it up. Then suddenly he started crying, like literally, sobbing really loud. This sent me into full panic mood. I found myself screaming, telling him to stop several times, and as a result he literally yelled back in my ear. The nurse got involved. I told her to get him out of there. He tried to argue with me but wasn't given a chance and was pressured to leave the room. I didn't see him afterwards, after our daughter was born. And while I was resting he didn't show up. His mom kept calling to see where he was. She stayed with me and I haven't seen him till the day I was discharged. We had a big fight at home. He kept lashing out when I said how bad it was for him to ghost me when I needed him. He said I shouldn't expect him to stick around after cruelly and selfishly kicked him out the room and robbed him an opportunity to see our daughter's first breaths. I explained he was causing me to panic with how he was crying, but he accused me of making up excuses and I was purely at fault for kicking him out and getting the staff to gang up on him no matter how hard I tried to spin it. He said as a dad he should have liberty to be in the room no matter how he behaves and whether I like it or not. I got tired of arguing. I told him to stop and he said he will but will never forget what I've cost him that day, then walked out. I was so mad and took time to cool off. Then when I unpacked my bag I found a small box that contained a necklace with our daughter's name. I felt awful knowing Kevin left it for me to wear at the hospital, but the argument happened and he spent the entire time in the car in the hospital's parking lot. Comment 1.
Yeah.
The fact that this wasn't a moment of panic thing but something he has rationalized and doubled down on for days has honestly just terrifying implications for how he's going to parent. A man who will make someone in labor bear the undue burden of managing his mental illness will do the same for a small child. He will lash out, stress the kid out for reasons she can't possibly understand, and then refuse to apologize. She will grow up with the message that daddy's cruel, volatile behavior is her fault for not carefully controlling herself, bottling up her own emotions, refusing to express her own needs. OP, do you have any idea how badly that can fuck a kid up, especially a girl? I don't want to catastrophize, because I don't know your husband or whether he is willing to entertain psychiatric intervention when push comes to shove. But this issue is a poison pill for your family and you need to acknowledge that. Comment 2. Same. We had to walk on eggshells with my stepdad. We got blamed for making him so angry he couldn't control himself, but there was no telling what would set him off, so we were always afraid. Later I asked adults in my life why they never stopped the abuse and they said, he never hit you, but you don't need to hit to destroy someone's mental health. Emotional abuse is abuse. I grew up with extreme anxiety and still suffer from panic disorder where I have panic attacks with no obvious triggers. I spent years in therapy to end up able to function normally in society instead of constantly thinking my behavior is responsible for the reactions of every single person around me. OP, please make your husband get therapy or leave him. Don't do this to your kid. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for asking my stepfather to pay rent to live in a house that I own, after he asked me to pay rent once I turn 18? I'll be 18 in a couple of months. My stepfather of 5 years gave me the heads up that I need to start paying a fair rent to continue living in the house after I turn 18. The house we currently live in belonged to my dad who died when I was 6. My mom and dad were never married and I inherited the house and my mom and I lived here and then my stepfather moved in after they got married. Looks like my stepfather was under the impression that my mom owns the house. I told him that it's not happening as I own the house, he laughed at me and didn't believe it. I talked to my mom and she confirmed that she never told him that I own the house. He now knows the truth. So the reality is, he believed it was completely fair to ask me to pay rent when he didn't know I own the house. So it's only fair that I ask him to pay me rent now. Last night, I gave them the heads up that if they continue planning to live here after I turn 18 that's fine, but they need to start paying rent. My stepfather believes this is unfair as it's a sudden change and he needs more time, and that I'm being heartless because you don't do this to family. Well, he was prepared to do this to me, so what's the difference? He said he did it to help me gain my independence and prepare for an adult life, and that's part of growing up, whereas I'm doing it to spite. I told him that if I need to pay rent to learn to be an adult, then what does that make him, living here rent-free? He told me I'm out of line and the conversation ended. My mom believes he made a mistake asking me to pay rent, but I'm being spiteful and it's wrong of me to push for this, as it will result in our family being torn apart. Comment 1. OP's way is more dignified. By waiting until they are 18. In reality they are saying a little F you that says thanks for being shitty parent and kicking them out upon turning 18, giving stepfather fair and friendly reminder that any parental rights he thinks he has expire upon completion of his 18 years of his existence. Do this in accordance with your local laws on residential eviction, of course. It's also the slow play. OP doesn't want anything, no back rent, no future rent, except to be free from narcissists. He is not a narcissist. OP seems like a chill, reasonable person, hence the notice, which was coming anyway, he just got around to do it. Say
Goodbye
to stepfather forever. OP, don't even let him pay rent. Get away. Comment 2. True, assuming they're in a country and culture where she is able to leave someone who treats her kid this way. If the culture doesn't allow women agency, then her act of defiance was to keep OP's ownership of the house a secret until he was of age to receive full agency. That keeps stepdad from using some legal nonsense to take the house from the kid. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my dad the real reason why I don't want to go on vacation with him/his family and potentially ruining his marriage? Mood spoiler, happy. I am a 17-year-old male. When I was around 9, my dad, 39M, started seeing a friend of my mom's, cheated on my mom, they married, and they now have 3 kids together. My dad asked for custody and he was granted to have me on weekends. He seemed happy to have me and always tried to include me in everything, but it was kind of weird and frustrating. He even tried to make me call his wife a mom and went for full custody several times. Since being with his wife and making me accept his new family was more important than spending actual time with me alone, I stopped going to his house. When I was 14, he tried to fight for full custody after my mom started dating my stepdad, a nice guy, but I told him to stop. The other reason why I stopped going, I never told my dad this one, is because his wife was so hostile towards me. My dad used to pay attention to me when I was there, so I think she didn't like it that way, and one day told me behind my dad's back that I was an obstacle to my dad's happiness, that I should just stay with my mom full time. Their anniversary was 5 days ago. I didn't want to go, but he called my mom to threaten that if I didn't go, he'd go to court. He took his 4 kids, including me, his wife, his parents, and his parents-in-law to celebrate at a nice restaurant. Once there he said that he had 6 tickets for vacations. I didn't say anything, but then he looked at me and said, "One is for you." I said, "Thanks, but I'm not going." He seemed angry and said, "Okay, I had enough, why don't you want to go, just because?" I said, but then he asked the same questions 5 more times, so the 6th time I said, "Because I hate your wife." Then he started asking why over and over again, so I ended up telling him the mean things she said to me. He was seemingly uncomfortable, but told us to finish our meal. No one talked for the rest of the night, and after we finished I asked my stepdad to pick me up. I haven't spoken to my dad since. He just sent me a message asking if I changed my mind about the trip, but I said no. My cousin told me that my dad is staying at my grandparents' now. His wife texted me yesterday calling me a brat and asking if I was happy for potentially destroying my half-sibling's home life. But I just ignored her. My cousin says that the kids are hurt and crying because my dad isn't at home, and she says that I should just have said other things or agree, and then tell him later that I wasn't going. My dad called me today, saying that if I change my mind about the trip, it'd only be me, his sons and him. But I don't know, I told him that I'd think about it. He loves you and cares for you clearly. I know he does, and I love him back, I just don't like his wife. Are my dad and I in a better place? Well, since a lot of you guys have been messaging me, asking about my situation, and I'm finally done with my finals, which means that I have time, here is an update. I didn't show my father the mean messages she sent me, as many of you suggested, because I don't want this woman going around saying that I destroyed her life and all of her. *T, so I didn't really do it and I won't, that's on her. My dad has been so apologetic, and after a few days, I posted here for the first time, he picked me up to hang out. Just the two of us, he apologized and even cried for not realizing before what the issue was. He said it was never his intention to make feel that way. He promised he'd never let her get between us again, he begged me not to hate him, I don't know where he got that from, I love him, because he doesn't want me to cut him off since he wants to be there for my wedding and also as a grandpa to my kids. And then he got a little emotional saying how much he loves, etc. He basically promised to be a better father. He asked me if I changed my mind about the trip and I said yes, I'll go, it'll be just me, my dad and his kids. It'll be in August and I know she is furious for being excluded but hasn't texted me or anything. So that's it, my dad and I talk more often, and we also hang out more. I've been to his house a couple of times, just for a few hours, but his wife and I just ignore each other. So that's it, I guess. I'm going on the trip with my dad and half-siblings. Someone asked me about the relationship I have with the boys. Well, we get along, thus we can't really do a lot of things together since we have different interests. They are 8, 7, 5 all male. But I love them and I know they love their big brother, they say it. Comment 1. I didn't show my father the mean messages she sent me, as many of you suggested, because I don't want this woman going around saying that I destroyed her life and all of her. *T, so I didn't really do it and I won't, that's on her. I hate these words and get irrationally angry every time I see them. If she ends up divorced because of what she has done or said to you, it's her own damn fault. Who the duck cares what she thinks and says? You are not responsible for her actions. You telling people doesn't magically responsible either. FFS. Comment 2. Please reconsider showing him the messages. She has ruined your relationship with your dad, even though it sounds like it will recover. She has severely damaged your father's life and he is entitled to know she is the reason he missed out on years with you. It is highly likely she has also manipulated other relationships in his life. Not showing these to your dad continues to give her the power to damage him more.